So many times when you put the two words together, retirement and financial advisor, most of the time, and as it should be, you think about the financial aspect of your retirement and whether you're going to have enough money to be able to sustain your lifestyle or possibly even increase your lifestyle in retirement. However, what a lot of people not neglect, but don't really think about is the whole holistic approach to retirement. Basically, social life, what are you going to do with your time? So when it comes to planning, don't just look at retirement from the financial viewpoint. You got to take a more holistic approach to it. So what do you do differently than other advisors when it comes to planning for retirement?
So when people initially come to see me to see if we're a good fit, we do something called a right fit conversation. So, what is it that you're looking for in an advisor? And I want to gauge, they want to decide if I'm a good fit for them and vice versa. Because, if we're going to work together, this is going to be a long-term relationship that we're going to be entering into. So what I want to find out is, what's the reason for coming to see me? Typically, it's lack of communication with the existing advisor, where maybe you have some investments, but no plan, no clarity. You don't know when you can retire, how you're going to set yourself up with an income stream, what that's going to look like. And then the other aspect, or the other times people will sometimes come to see me, is an advisor has retired, a new person comes in, and they don't necessarily gel with that person. So that financial aspect is huge, but even when someone comes in for that right fit conversation, I want to find out, what's important to you? Do you have goals? Have you spoken to your spouse about how you envision your retirement going? Do you want to live somewhere warm 3 or 6 months out of the year? Are you going to stay in your current house, or are you going to right size? Maybe your house is too big and your kids are getting out of the nest and you want to have a little bit smaller home, or perhaps you want to move to a townhouse where you're not going to have to shovel snow or cut grass. Maybe you have grandkids that you want to, babysit or help with driving them to school or hockey or soccer or whatever the activities are.
So you try to find out as much as you can about the person.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, the finances are huge, but some of the financial aspect will also filter over to how much you need to do things in retirement. Maybe you pick up a golf game or two on a weekend, right, but now you can join a league or a couple of leagues and be golfing multiple times a week. There's a cost associated, though, with having a golf membership and, meals and drinks and that sort of thing afterwards. Maybe you have a hobby. I've had a few clients that they're into woodworking. Well, that can be a more expensive hobby with the
tools that you require
and that sort of thing that you need. So it's really getting an understanding of what the future is going to look like so that we can make sure that you have the finances available to do that, but also I take an interest in clients' lives and what they're doing. To me, it's like, what's the point of working hard and saving and sacrificing and amassing all of this money if you're not going to find ways to enjoy it and do the things that you want to do?
And that's what I find, like, dealing with you and actually talking to some of your clients and hearing stories about your clients. You really care about whether these people retire comfortably and with money, but not only that, about whether they're going to have a good life when they get on that other side of the working fence, right? Mm-hmm. So why? That's my question to you. Why do you care so much about whether people succeed in retirement? Because I will be honest with you, I've dealt with other financial professionals in the past that was, hey, how are you doing? How much are you looking to invest this year?
Yeah. I don't know. I just, what? I don't know. I think I'm a very empathetic person and I'm curious, right? I want to know what other people are doing. Right now, pickleball is like the craze everywhere. And I actually, a friend of mine, she said, do you want to go out and try pickleball? Okay. I said, do I have to buy anything? She's like, don't worry. I got all the gear. Just show up at this date and this time. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. There's an entire community. Oh, yeah. And
pickleball courts are going up all over the place.
And honestly, I was one of the youngest people there. But it was so cool to just meet, and it was on a Friday morning, and it was just women for 2 hours, but everyone was so amazing and so gracious and trying to teach me the scoring. And I thought, how cool is this? I wish I had more time that I could do this activity.
Right.
You know, I mean, I do have to come to work every day during the day, but you know, there's like, that's one thing where it's a pretty low cost activity, actually. So actually I had a client come in a few weeks ago to drop off his taxes, and he lives out in the county. He's like, oh, I'm in this area, we're gonna go play badminton. I said, what do you mean badminton? He said, yeah, there's a church a few blocks from my office here that you pay $5 and you can play badminton a couple days a week.
Amazing.
Like, I had no idea that was going on.
$5 expense and get a good workout.
Yeah. And he said, you know, I did it last week. He said I paid for it for a couple days because I used and same when I did pickleball. I was like, okay, it's different. You know, I have some clients that they do aqua fitness, and that's a great way to, you know, for women and men, but it seems like a lot more ladies do it just for low impact. So I just want to find out, you know, what people are doing. And not just, you know, here's your investment update. I'm curious about, you know, what people are doing.
You like people.
Yes, I like people. I'm in the people business. And, you know, people always say to me, like, they're amazed that I remember that their kids are in a sport or they had something come up.
Right.
Like, you know what? I was blessed to have, I don't have a photographic memory. I have an excellent memory. I'm pretty sure my 7-year-old has a photographic memory. That's a whole other, which it's not always good because he's like, Mom, remember that you said I could have this, that, or the other thing. But no, to me, I think it's really important to know what's going on in people's lives and what's important to them, because it just helps me to better plan for them.
I think it's important for when people retire, they need to figure out, and I think this is a planning process, like maybe 5 years before you start planning to retire. What is your identity once you retire?
Yeah.
Because let's say you do 30, 35 years working at the same job, going to the same place every single day, and you have your set routine. You know, everybody identifies with the work that they do. Mm-hmm. So once you're not there, once you're not doing that for 35 hours a week or whatever, who are you?
Right.
And I think it's so important to try to discover that.
And I think that's the same too when you're a parent and then your kids leave the nest, and like, what do you do with yourself, right? I'm not there yet. I have a 7-year-old, so I have a long time. But I think about this all the time too, because people ask me when I'm going to retire. First and foremost, I love my job, so I don't know. I know when I can financially retire.
Right.
Whether I choose to retire or work part-time, that's a whole. I likely will work part-time. My husband swears that I will never retire. I don't know, but I also don't have any. You know, my hobbies right now. I was actually just interviewed on a podcast, and somebody said, "Oh, when you're not working, what are you doing?" I build a lot of Lego. I don't know that I'm going to build a lot of Lego when I'm retired. I build a lot of Lego because my 7-year-old is obsessed with Lego. But fast forward, you know, whether it's 10 or 20 years from now, I'm probably not building Lego. So I'm going to say that's not really my hobby. That's my son's hobby.
Right.
I love to read. I'm a murder mystery fanatic. I've read pretty much every James Patterson book that's been written. But you can only read so much. But we did get a kayak last year, so I'm going to start foray into kayaking. I did try, my son was in piano lessons. I did try to learn. This gal in music is, you know, I gave it a go. And we also got him a ukulele. Music is not my thing. I love listening to music. I love singing and dancing music around my house when I'm cleaning. But musical instruments are probably not going to be where I'm going to spend my time. I'm not the most crafty person in terms of like painting and drawing. I can pretty much just do a stick figure.
You're more like the book finance nerd. That's what you've told me. So you'll probably end up reading a lot.
Yeah, reading, you know, I like Netflix, but probably walking. And we have a pool. I love to swim. I was a competitive swimmer. So I don't know. I don't have a, you know, but that's something I need to figure out. So I'm always curious. So I think part of it, getting back to your question, is like, why do I care? It's curiosity because I want to know what clients are doing, but also I'm also trying to figure out at some point in my life, what am I going to do? I will definitely travel. It's hard to travel with a 7-year-old, right? Yeah. So, but as he gets older and a little more independent, you know, he's like, Mom, I want to go to Spain. I'm like, I'd love to go to Spain too.
Nice.
There is a lot of walking involved.
Oh yeah.
I'm not piggybacking that kid all over going into cathedrals around Spain. So I'm like, okay, let's give it a couple years. We're going to put Spain on our bucket list. But not yet, sweetheart. So,
Side note, I've been to Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. We were there for 10 days. And what was really great about it is that we went and we stayed with a high school friend of my wife's.
Okay.
So she was a local that knew all of these really cool places off the beaten path. So it wasn't the like traditional tourist spots where you'd see a bunch of people taking pictures. Like she was taking us to like churches that were built into the side of a mountain, which was just incredible. But like tons of
walking, right?
Tons of
so
walking.
I just know that that's probably not something that we're going to do until he can walk a little bit further.
Oh,
so
yeah, for sure.
I'm also realistic about it. So yeah, I take a genuine interest in what clients are doing because I like to find a commonality, right? When people have hobbies and things that they're doing. I enjoy cooking. My husband is retired. He makes sourdough bread. He does a lot of the grocery shopping. So yeah, there's errands and household things that I would definitely probably do a lot more of during retirement. And I think people do that. My husband's in a couple of bowling leagues. He said yesterday he got asked to be in 2 more. I'm like, okay, well, he could pretty much be bowling every day. And that's his hobby. That's what he likes to do.
Nice.
I don't mind it. It's something that I don't know that maybe I would join a league. But that's 2 or 3 hours a week. What do you do with the other 40 or 50 hours? That you'd be working.
But I think in the last couple of statements that you made, you've touched on a bunch of different things. Like as far as people trying to find their identities once they retire. I mean, like it's trying to identify who you are now that you're not going to the same job, for 35, 40 hours a week. But it's also that sense of community that you have to surround yourself with. And with your husband joining a bowling league and like with you maybe going out to do pickleball like on a more regular basis if it comes down to that. But it's community as well, right? And the people that you talk to because you're not going to be seeing the same people now.
Right.
Like, so, and I would imagine that would be a huge culture shock because all your friends, and your associates and coworkers that you see for 8 hours a day,
right,
like for decades, literally decades.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're like, you know what? I'm not going to see Joe by the water cooler on Monday morning anymore.
Yep.
And talk about like the latest hockey stats or whatever it is that you chatted about. So what do you do now? And I think that's important because once people find themselves in that situation, and they're questioning, what do I do now? Who do I talk to? Who are my friends? What are my identity? For those that can't find those questions, I think that's where the deep depression sets in and can lead to darker places and why sometimes retirees don't live long past retirement.
Right.
Whereas I think those that can answer those questions and find those answers, okay, so what am I into? Am I into pets? Can I volunteer at the Humane Society? Am I into sports? Can I maybe coach a little hockey league or floor hockey league? Volunteer at different causes that you might find close to your heart.
Right.
I think it's very, very important to find stuff like that, community stuff, like stuff that you feel in part of, a sense of purpose. I think
that's exactly what I was waiting for you to finish talking was is having that purpose. What is it? And it might be just helping your kids with raising their kids, right? And enjoy being a grandma or a grandpa and baking with them or taking them fishing or you might be running errands for them. But that's what that gives you a reason to get up in the morning, right? When you have a job, you don't have a choice. You gotta, punch that clock from 9 to 5 or whatever, or if you're doing shift work or whatever. I think the key is what's your purpose going to be? So if it's volunteering, if it's, I have a few clients that, they do a walk and then they'll do lunch a couple days a week with friends that are also retired. So like you have a reason to get up and you have community and you have people that you can talk to.
And it gives you something to look forward to.
Yeah. And keep your brain active too, right?
Yes.
I have some clients and they're always showing me apps. They have like the Sudoku apps and different apps on their phones to keep their brain fresh. And I think that's important. I'm sure at whatever point I retire, I'll still talk finances to whoever wants to talk finances with me. And again, that's why my husband always says, I don't think you're ever going to retire because I'm probably still going to keep my same, my family will still want me to manage their investments. I'm still probably going to keep my top few, favorite clients that I really love to see. And it really doesn't feel like work, but I think it's again, purpose.
Because you end up building those relationships and these people actually become a part of your life.
Yeah.
And I remember you telling me stories about people that have come to see you telling you, hey, I just bought a new car or I just bought a house or my daughter got married or graduated from school. And I think that's so important. And I think that's so great that you end up building a relationship with these people and you're not just kind of like, so how much would you like to invest in your RSPs this year?
You know what? Actually, I have a client that her family is here last Friday and I knew she was in hospice, but they came to just make sure that everything is in order. So I actually have to go. Unfortunately, she passed away This past week, I'm going to a celebration of life for her today, and I don't want to get emotional, but she had become a friend, not just a client, but she'd become a friend, and her, just sharing those stories with her family. And I mean, this woman's been my client for, I don't know, at least 10 years, because I remember when I was pregnant with Austin, she'd be telling me stories about when she had both of her girls, and after I had him, she brought me in a little outfit for her, and you get to know people and get to know their families, and her daughter, one of her daughters, is a client too. So it's one of those things where people don't just become your clients, they become your friends.
I think it's amazing. And in our conversation, I've looked at three things, like the importance of finances, the importance of relationships, and the importance of having a purpose. And I think those three things, if you get those in order, that really gets you off to a great start for a holistic approach to retirement. And I'm still a number of years away from retirement, and I love what I love what I do.
Good, because I don't want to have to learn how to do Facebook posts and how to put a YouTube video up and all that kind of stuff.
So for those of you that don't know, I work with Lynn. Like I do all of her social media stuff. I do her YouTube videos, her podcasts. I do her email newsletter. I love my job, and I know that might sound facetious, like sitting across from my boss, but I love what I do because I believe in what she's doing. Relationship building, helping people. And I mean, I think financial planning goes so much more beyond just investments and numbers. And that's what we're really touching upon here, is that retirement is the next phase of your life. And it's an important aspect. And like, some people retire super early. What's the youngest person you've ever dealt with that retired? 50-something, early 60s?
No, actually, I have a client that just retired in this year. I'm 44, and she is, I was born in 1980. She was born in 76, so 4 years older than me. So she's 48.
Retired at 48. And she still
Hold on, I got another one that actually retired, and she's 2 years older than me. She was born in 78, so 46.
So 46-year-old, retired, and I mean, that's a whole nother life. You get another 40 years, like at 86, it's a lot to plan for.
Can I just say the 48-year-old, her mom's also a client of mine, but the whole family, they're clients. And her mom's like, I'm not going to say her name because I don't want to breach client confidentiality, but she's like, do you know she is busy every single day and she doesn't even know how she had time to work before? I'm like, this is what everybody tells me. So yes, solid plan, things are great. And so, I mean, this lady, it's not that she might never work it. She's fully retired from a profession that she's been in for 20 plus years. That is a very stressful profession. She might pick up something to do periodically for fun, but definitely doesn't need the money. So, but that's a fantastic position to be in. And yes. and this just didn't happen overnight. This has been some planning over quite some time.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, I've had a few clients. I have the one gentleman where he's looking at me like, lady, I don't know if I can retire. Like, you could just see it. It was like if I could read his mind. And I said, listen, if you have to come and see me every single month, and we have to review spreadsheets. He was an engineer. He is retired now. He's an engineer and he's a spreadsheet kind of guy. I'm like, we'll meet every month. If we got to do some hand holding, I'm cool with that. I promise you, it's not good for business if somebody retires and they run out of money. So, like, I got you. Okay. I know. I've run the numbers. I've done you a spreadsheet. I've used my retirement planning software. For this guy, I actually used two because he's an engineer and he's super analytical. So I actually did 2 financial plans with 2 separate softwares just to back it up because he's a little more analytical than the average bear, which is cool. So, and he took me up on the offer. But the coolest thing is, he was in a few months, he was in for taxes, but before that, he and his wife were here, and she's like, can you just look at this guy? Like, he's grinning like an idiot all the time. He is just so happy he's retired. She's like, it's weird. But he's like, okay, like it's, it took him a while to kind of like decompress and get used to it. But man, like, what have you been doing? Well, I take care of the yard and I take care of the pool and we got a puppy and, doing all sorts of different things and we're going to travel more and do things. And he's like, okay, like I get it now. So sometimes it's just trust the professional and trust the process. It's not just here's your retirement plan and good luck to you. This is ongoing, talking and dialogue and planning. So that's why I said the people I like to work with are retired or within, that 5 to 10 year window of retirement. It takes some planning and getting yourself in order to do that financially. But I also have conversations with people about how are you going to fill your time? I want people to enjoy their hard-earned money and, do the hobbies and things that they want to do, spend time with friends and family. So I don't know, it's that holistic approach that we take. It's not just all about dollar signs.
I think that's great that you managed to maintain relationships, even though like you've gotten this far, you know what I mean? Like you've gotten them planning, you've got the whole thing, and then they hit the retirement and it's not just a drop off. Mm-hmm. It's still that maintenance of the relationship, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah. Clients don't move their money out to other financial institutions. They stay with us, then, I've had some clients unfortunately pass away. Well, but then I get to know their kids and we, make sure that their kids have a plan and try and, keep the assets in the family for them. So, gosh,
there really is a lot to consider about and to think about when you do retire. Again, like I don't ever see myself retiring per se. I'm part owner of an entertainment company as well, and we do a lot of stuff, and I just love what I do.
And you like dancing, so like you taught dance, you DJ'd, you've done like a zillion different professions.
Yes.
So I don't know, when I retire, if you're like, all right, well, Lynn's retired, I'm not going to do social media marketing. You could always do it for other.
Oh yeah.
Financial people, other people, or you'd find something else to do.
I think I feel really blessed to be able to find gainful employment in things that I enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. So like I'm not going to a job that I don't like.
Right. You also have 2 small kids that are going to cost you some money for college and university, so you're going to have to keep working, but that's a whole other thing. Oh yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. So we got some time, so that's good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, weddings. That's the big one I'm looking forward to.
They're still small.
Yeah, they're still young, so we got a lot.
And they're going to be employed soon too. Glenn's daughters are going to do some
work for us,
some mail drops for us, and do some marketing in the neighborhoods near our office. So there you go. When we're going to teach them about
finances,
and saving young. That's a whole other. There's a whole other topic. I like when we do podcast topics. We think of other topics while we're chatting.
What's great is that the podcasts that we've done, when we mention about kids living at home with their parents, mm-hmm. those are the ones that have the hugest viewership. Mm-hmm. So I think we need to do a topic about that and actually offer a little bit of advice on how we might be able to do gently push.
Okay, that's good, because actually
the 30-year-old kids that are still living in mom and dad's basements, because somebody replied to one of our podcasts saying like, I can't afford to buy a house, like give anything to my parents. I don't have anything to give, and I'm trying to figure out, should I reply to that or should I not reply to that?
I'd like to follow that young person around for a week and point out what they're spending money on that is probably a want versus a need.
Yeah.
And I'd say, you probably could be saving a little bit more than you are. I actually met with a lady yesterday who we had a conversation, and she is okay with charging her kids rent until they get out because she has an outrageous grocery bill every week. And her husband's not on board because their parents didn't have to ask them. I'm like, ooh, well, this is a whole other. I know. Like, all right, well, we're going to, but it was a right fit conversation. She came in, what are you looking for in an advisor? And sometimes I have to send people home with some homework. And the homework is, what do you have coming in? What do you have going out? Because we can't figure out what you need to retire on unless we know what it costs to run your household. And I have a sneaking suspicion based on a few things that this lady shared was that unless they ask the kids to help contribute, they're not retiring.
Right.
Unfortunately. So it's getting these young folks ready and getting them out of the nest so mom and dad can downsize to a smaller property with not as big property tax expense, utility expenses, etc. It's a process. It's not just, they're coming to see me a few years in advance. So there is some planning to be done. there might be an uncomfortable conversation or two. Yeah, it's, it would be unfortunate to have to ask your kids to help chip in. But when your kids are making close to 6-figure incomes, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask them to contribute. Again, we're going to stop though, because I could go off on a whole tangent. Because we're supposed to talk about holistic. We're going to
save this.
We're going to talk about holistic.
Another episode.
Yes, we're gonna do a total episode on kids and finances. But back to the holistic approach is just looking at your total overall financial well-being, emotional well-being. What are you going to spend your time doing is important. It all factors into a plan.
Tell us about your client that rents big cottage every year.
Oh, yes. I have a client.
I think this is awesome.
Her husband unfortunately passed away suddenly. Ooh, I don't even know how many years ago. It was at least 10 years ago. But what she does is she rents the most beautiful cottage. They go to the same one every year up in Muskoka. And it's over 10 grand a year that she pays to rent this place. But she pays for gas and groceries. She's got 4 kids and they live all over. And she pays for gas and groceries for the kids and the grandkids to come. And they just have an amazing week every year.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. And she just absolutely loves it. Like, she looks forward to that week, I think, more than she probably does Christmas every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's bringing the family together.
And creating those memories, right?
Exactly.
And these kids are growing up and they're spending time with their cousins that, everyone lives in different cities across Ontario. So, yeah, it's really cool.
I saw an interview with an older lady at sometime back on Facebook or something like that. And this lady was in her late 80s. And they asked her, what was the best time of your life? And she replied, when my husband was alive and my kids still lived at home. Mm. And I think that's why that lady, like with her husband passed away and all of her getting, like, if it costs her $10,000, it's not the cost. It's the fact that she's bringing her family together again. And if her kids are scattered all over the country, that's what matters. It brings it down to the essence of what
and she has the affordability. It's like, what's important to you? Spending time with my family, but they're all over. Okay, well then why don't you? They have it a week in advance. They all know it's all booked off with their employer. So these kids have the week, the week off. And then grandkids are at some of the grandkids are at the point where they're starting to get part-time jobs, but their employers know way in advance, like, this is my week to spend with my grandma, and that's it. And that's what they
fantastic.
do. And
I would love to be in that position someday, like, just to be able to do that. Hey, we're getting a cottage somewhere, like, I'm going to pay for everything, just come out, wherever it may be. That's going to happen. I'm going to make that happen one day.
All right, there you go.
I think that's really, really cool. All right, legacy. Do you want to leave money in 20, 30 years when you're gone, or do you want to watch your kids and grandkids enjoy the money with you?
Yes. I have another client. She's got 4 kids, and what she does is each year she takes one family on an elaborate trip. Like, one family's going to Hawaii. That's pricey. So we got grandma and there's the son and the daughter-in-law, and they have 2 kids. So grandma's paying for 5 to go to Hawaii, and they're doing it up. So she's like telling me all the things.
That's fantastic.
And every year, so they get to pick where they want to go. Where'd she go last year? I think they did Spain. She did Spain and Portugal with another one of the kids. So, like, they have time to plan. Like, that is so cool. So, yes, grandma has a lot of money, and she's not going to spend it all.
Yeah.
And, we've had a conversation. She's, this lady's in her early 70s. She's spry and healthy, and I love all my clients, but she's for sure one of my favorites. And I just ask her, what do you want to spend the money on this year? Where are you guys going? And I'm excited to find out the unveiling of, where everyone's going to go each year. And she can leave. They're all going to receive money when she dies one day, but why not create some amazing memories with your kids and your grandkids along the way? So everybody, because eventually when this lady dies, and it's probably going to be 20 years from now. So why not enjoy it in the process, right?
Exactly. And when you talk legacy, it's about that, like, relationships, and the fact that, her kids and her grandkids are going to know their grandmother, and with these amazing experiences, with the advent of the cell phones, being able to take video and pictures and stuff. So these grandkids eventually will be able to show their kids, this is what my grandmother did.
And
taking us on this crazy trip to Hawaii. It's amazing.
I remember, like, going to Colasante's and, like, feeding the goats. It's a local, place around here. But
cheers, I did that too.
Yeah. But think about, you're not going to forget your grandma that brought you to,
that's amazing.
Hawaii or some amazing
and just
trips.
being I think that's great. I think family legacy is so important. And of course, there's a whole podcast we can do about family dynamics as well. But I think being in a position where you plan to be able to put yourself in that position where you can do stuff like that.
Right.
That's so important. I think that's what we're really getting at here, the heart of it, and planning properly for retirement.
Yeah, and one of the things, especially when people come in to see me, one of the questions is like, how often am I going to hear from you? Like, and I tell, we have a whole communication plan, but I tell people, I like to meet with you at the beginning of the year, and it doesn't have to, you don't have to physically come to my office. We can do Zoom, we can do a phone chat. It's just, what's on the docket for the year? Do you or your spouse need a new vehicle? Is there a home renovation you need to do? Is there a trip that you're really wanting to do? Is there anything big financially happening? If not, that's okay. Then we see you at income tax time. We'll touch base throughout the summer, and then we're going to have another chat towards the end of the year. And if you haven't taken the money out, let's say you're retired, it may make sense depending on your situation. Maybe you're taking out $10,000 or $20,000 or whatever the dollar amount is. If we need you to shift it to your TFSA, a non-registered account, or just spend it. Be more generous at Christmas, right? Everyone's situation is different, but we do check-ins to make sure that you're doing the things that you want to do. Clients, I've had clients call me, okay, I need money out for a car. Like, please bring me your car when you come. I want to check it out, right? I've had some clients buy some really amazing cars. Or I have one client, the husband retired, they went on a cruise, and she literally texted me a picture every day when they were in port, and she told me that she loved me every day because she was so ecstatic that her husband could retire. He had a lot of health issues, and they didn't think that retirement was possible for them. So that's
the benefit of properly planning for retirement.
Right.
It's fantastic.
And I love that. So to me, it's like, I want to know what's going on with clients, and to get those messages is just... there's a lot of great things in my job and what I do, but those are my favorite things, is to see people going and doing the things that they want to do.
And honestly, that's why I love working with you, is because you care about people. So I think, and it makes a difference. It makes a difference when you care about people and you're not just asking them, so how much you contribute to RSP this year? So yeah, I think from a holistic standpoint, I think we had touched upon, financial planning, one of the top priorities, and then a sense of community in building relationships, right? And then having that sense of purpose. I think that's so important. You got to have a reason why you get up out of bed every day, whether that's, feeding your cat, or, taking care of your grandkids, or volunteering somewhere that's close to your heart. I think it's important for people to find that. So,
absolutely.
Anything you want to add on before we close this one out? I think this has been a great chat.
If you want to talk to somebody that does things a little bit differently, if you're not getting that extra love from your financial advisor, reach out to us and we'll do that right fit conversation. Depending on where you're watching this, I'm licensed in Ontario and Alberta, so you'd have to live in one of those provinces to be a client of mine. So
nice.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to end it on that note, and we'll see you on the next podcast. My name is Glenn Baccaro. This is Olin Godfroy, the financial architect for Canadians, and we'll catch you on the next one. Have a great day.